Well, hello everyone and welcome to another very exciting episode here on the MI Gardener channel. I know you all are going to love this one because in this episode we're going to talk about super inexpensive trellising options for pole beans and cucumbers, because I think oftentimes a lot of people completely overlook things that are not marketed as vegetable trellises. And so oftentimes you'll just run to the store, they buy vegetable trellises, and there are so many other inexpensive options for you that can be used. And we're implementing two here right in the garden that I want to show you that are super inexpensive, very effective, and something that you can find at literally any hardware store for just pennies on the dollar compared to other stuff out there. The first one is lattice. Now, latticing is actually used around houses and decks. It's kind of just a decorative barrier, if you will, to cover up an air gap. So oftentimes people have elevated porches, and that elevation leads to kind of a vacancy underneath the porch, and that void usually allows for cats and stray animals and things like that to make nests in there, and it also doesn't look that great. It's also unsightly. So they make this thing called lattice, and lattice is really inexpensive. This 4-foot by 8-foot lattice actually cost us only $8. So 4-foot by 8-foot, that's 32 square feet of vertical growing space that you can be using to increase your harvest without increasing your growing space or your garden, because you're growing vertically. You're using the air to grow your plants. And so we used this 32 square feet for $8 to grow our plants, and it's cheaper than any trellising you could find anywhere. So coming in close, I'll show you how I secured it and kind of what we're going to do to train the cucumbers up this trellis. Now, we do have cucumbers here that we're going to trail onto the ground, but that's just because we only had this one piece of lattice here. And a quick tip is that oftentimes you can go on Craigslist, you can go on Facebook and ask around if anyone has any spare lattice. Oftentimes it's, when people are doing their porches or deck work and stuff like that, they'll buy more than they need because they have to cut it down to size, and there's usually some waste. That's actually how we got this piece. We contacted our local building supply store and said, hey, is there any waste lattice left over from any projects? And they said, yeah, we got a couple pieces laying around. So they sold us this piece for $8. And so it's a huge piece, but it comes in big strips. Sometimes it comes in squares. You just have to check around and see. And even if you buy it at full price, it's still an incredible trellising option that's going to hold up your plants. It's going to look really great. And yeah, it's really effective because it allows the plants to grow up right through it and doesn't ever sag like some of your nylon netting does. And I do like nylon netting, but it's just for a sag-free option that matches the the wood look of our beds. It's really effective and looks really awesome. So coming in close, let's see how we got this one put together. So coming around behind the lattice, you'll see two posts. These are 2x2 posts, and they come 8 feet long. So they go way up to the top there, and we simply cut them into a spike, drove them into the ground about a foot or so, and then we simply nailed them to the lattice. We nailed the lattice to them, and then we basically got up on, when the whole piece was together, we put it together on the ground. So both posts were attached to the lattice. Then we had about a foot of extra at the bottom that we could stand up on a ladder and hammer the whole piece down together as one, because we actually tried to hammer in the posts first and then stick the lattice up next to it. The problem was you couldn't get any leverage because the trellis wobbled, that you could not get any force on the nails to drive them through into the wood. So we just took it down, put it together as one piece, and then put it in as one piece, and it worked a whole lot better. But you can see here, this is the lattice from the behind here, and I stuck a simple just a 1x2 piece that I've nailed into the lattice from this way to provide some support this way. So as the wind blows this way and pushes on the trellis, it also, this is pushing that way. So it provides some lower support. And we've also gone through and we've nailed in several locations the actual bit of lattice to the raised bed itself. So this is really secure, even though it wobbles a little bit. It's just because it's really tall. We've had some super strong 60, 70 mile an hour gusts through some storms that we've had, and it's stood up just perfectly fine. So it's nice, and it's very aerodynamic because the wind goes right through the holes there in the lattice, and so you don't have any risk of it falling over. So I love this. This is a real great trellising option. So we're here with the second trellising option, and this one is super, super cool for our peas because it was actually left over from scrap. So it was, I mean, it cost us something initially, but because it was scrap, it was almost like a free trellis. And this is actually by using 1/4 inch mesh. And the 1/4 inch mesh, you can get in a big roll. They come in 25, 50, and 100-foot rolls. You can get them from your local hardware store. Pretty inexpensive, but you can easily, find this stuff rolled up for free at the side of the road. Oftentimes people throw it out all the time because it comes in massive rolls and you don't need to use all of it. And so we had some. We always throw it in the garage when we have extra, and we just save it for another project. And that's what we use it for. And we simply had these 1x2 furring strips left over from a project from a couple years back. And we simply cut them down to size, and then cut a angle in them so they could be drove into the ground a little easier. And then we drove them in the ground after we had we simply wrapped the trellising material, and since it's metal, it can be folded and it'll hold its shape. We simply crimped it around the post here. It's real nice and secure. And then we simply took 2 or 3 little staples and stapled it in just to make sure it was really secure there and wouldn't slide around. And we just drove it in as one piece, just like we did with the bigger trellis, just drove it in as one piece, and it's doing wonderfully. The peas are climbing up that, and that's a free trellising option that will allow the peas to grow vertically instead of competing for space horizontally. So real awesome design. I absolutely love this one as well. And so, yeah. Those are our 2 trellising options. So hopefully you all enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you learned something new, and it's something that there are so many different options out there for people. I think oftentimes people, like I said, they just run to the first thing that they see as a vegetable trellis. And oftentimes, if you think outside the box, lots of things can be used as trellises. So it's just something that I like doing. It's fun to challenge your brain and to see what can be used or reused for an alternate purpose, and oftentimes they work so much better. So none of these are really marketed as vegetable trellises, but the plants don't notice any different, and didn't cost us a penny hardly. So there you go. There's your 2 inexpensive trellising options that we are using this year, and hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you'll try them yourselves. And as always, this is Luke from the My Gardener channel reminding you to grow big or go home. We'll see you later. Bye.